Hello, welcome to another hard surface practice session. In this one we're going to be modelling something that looks like some sort of sci-fi weapon. So we're going to start off modelling what looks like a drum, sort of like an ammo feeding drum. Just going to mirror that across. Just start with the base cylinder, insert these faces, and then we're just going to bridge them front to back. I'm not working to any specific plan here, it's just for fun. Extrude this top part up and scale it on the x-axis. Move the back edge forward. Insert an edge loop here and use E for even. And then move it to this side. And I'm going to fix up the topology here just to get rid of that ultra thin face that we've got going through there. That's it. That would work equally well if we were going to use the subdivision workflow, but I'm going to be using the bevel modifier here. Extrude out this bottom face, set of faces, and then I'm going to bevel these edges to make it round. It's still got some settings from the last time I used the bevel modifier on there. So I'm just going to set that back to 0.5 so it rounds out. Insert this face, these faces, and then extrude them. Pull this edge back along the y-axis and move that one forward again from where we mirrored it over. We got rid of that first edge movement that we did on it. Get rid of these internal edges there. I'm going to use border select on these faces. Actually, just select that edge. I'm going to use a reverse bevel on this. Don't often use them, but they do add quite a lot of visual interest to a piece. Just going to delete those edges around there. Add in a cylinder, rotate it 90 degrees on the x-axis, and then snap it to this vert in the front. Just scaling it into place, apply the scale, duplicate it and hide the copy. Now I'm just going to extrude these edges upwards. Quite like the way this shape's looking in general. Fill these faces in. I think I'm going to run a slice operation on that. It just cuts that part out as a separate object. Then I'm going to use the duplicate cylinder that we made to cut a cylinder into that part. In fact, I might use a Union. Can use Control-Shift-F with F2 tools just to add in all those faces along the bottom. I'm not going to fix up all the topology because there's no real need at this point. I like to do it here and there though, just in case it helps while modelling. Inset and extrude this part at the front. And duplicate, right click and separate by selection. Then select the new piece and extrude it out. And then I'm just going to insert and extrude that back. I'm going to make a sort of notch in the top of this piece. I'm not going to use that inset. Let's instead use a Boolean. Just add a little box. Just going to cut a notch out of the top part. Just snapping it into place and scaling it, and then a difference Boolean. Just fix up the topology, turn it to quads on that area. I can delete all the back faces there because you're not going to see them. Select these faces, shift, duplicate and flip, fill the back one and then extrude it forwards. Right click to fill, and then I'm going to use that reverse Boolean, reverse bevel, sorry, on the edges there. Actually no, let's set that back to 0.5. Insert and extrude, duplicate and separate, and then extrude that part out. Bevel those edges, and same again, insert and extrude. Then do another bevel on this part. Not sure if I'm thinking of those as the sort of scopes or rangefinders, or if they're another sort of launcher. It can be whatever you want, to be honest. It's, like I say, it's just a sci-fi piece and it's just a practice, so it doesn't really matter too much. Just going to bevel those bits on the back. Just going to run a bevel around this part of the front as well. I think I'll leave it with no segments, and then just going to make those edges hard, just so it looks the same as all the way around. You can see with not a lot of effort, it looks quite a complicated technical model so far. We've not really done much. We've just done some extruding, some insets and a few Booleans. Now to make it look a lot more complex, we're going to move it down on the Z axis, add in a plane axis. I'm going to temporarily join all the objects together and then apply everything so that their origin point is all at the same place. And then I'm going to mirror and use the plane axis as the mirror object, put bisect on and rotate it on the Y axis by 120 degrees. 120 degrees gives you a nice sorry a nice three-sided object, sort of an equilateral. I'm just going to move the bottom one down, and that'll move that one on the side further out, so there's a bit of a gap between them. Bit of a gap between the cylinders on the right hand side. And if we mirror that on the X, that should work perfectly. Okay, I'm just going to separate these by parts again. This is so that I can, when I come to shade texturing them, I can do it easier with the Bevel Shader, because all the parts of the same size will be the same object. Just going to delete these faces on the inside of this triangle that's been created here and just bridge them across, and then just fill in the faces. Just feel like it looks a bit more sci-fi having that sort of shape than just a basic triangle. Could scale it in, but I think I'll leave that as where it is. I'm just going to run a reverse bevel on the front and back of that area, just to add more detail. And I'm just going to select all the way around the outer edge of this part and do the same thing. On the back, I'm just going to select these areas here, inset them and extrude. Scale them to 0 on the y-axis, and then I'm going to snap them to this face. It doesn't seem to be perfectly flat there, so I'm just going to merge last those verts, which I'm guessing means that edge isn't straight. So I'm just going to straighten all those edges. Select coplanar, and then again I can inset and extrude. Could have made these a separate piece really, but I think the overall design of it's pretty much done. Okay, onto the texturing now. Going to split the view and change one side to a shader editor. Change the other side to a rendered view. And I'm going to start by setting up the ambient occlusion. So you have ambient occlusion going into a color ramp, going into a mix shader set to multiply with a factor of 1. And then you can set the color to whatever you want. Color 2 basically acts as the base color now. And you can slide the black slider across on the color ramp to add more ambient occlusion. I'm not sure if I want my... I've got some default lights set up, so I might have them on, might not. See how it looks. Just going to reduce the roughness down to a 0.3 and then put in the bevel shader. If I zoom in on some of the smaller edges, just to see how it's looking. It's a bit too big, especially around those sort of nozzle parts that are what I would imagine are the machine gun barrel. 0.3 seems about right. Just going to make it slightly lighter grey. Just going to turn the default lights off because they're sort of clipping through a little bit there. Could move them, but it's not really the focus of this video. Going to assign the same material to this inner part. Not sure if I want a smaller. Not sure if I want a smaller bevel on there or not. Oh, and I've not separated the material, so I'm just going to do that first. Have another look at that bevel. No, I think it's probably better off leaving it the same. We'll make it a lighter colour though, so that inset looks like a separate object. And I'm going to add the same material to those nozzles. And then just make that new material and make that barrel metallic. These outer cylinders, I'm going to give them the same material as the first material. Just going to turn off some of the overlays so I can see the model a bit better. Give that a new material. And just going to change that part to red. I think those parts there are going to be some sort of thing that gets launched, like some sort of rocket perhaps. You can change the ambient occlusion colour if you want to, but I think that's done. Just going to leave it at that. Okay, if you found this enjoyable, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Thank you and take care.